They think saying first time fix limits the downtime. It really doesn't. It
Right.
just means, all right, now instead of going out and diagnosing it, now I'm being hamstrung by dispatching. Because a lot of times what I'll do is I might have a guy in the area. You get that emergency call in. I know he doesn't have the parts on his truck because it was an emergency call and we can't stock every part on our truck unless we have a tractor trailer.
Right.
But I know he's next door. And I know that 43% of the time we use parts on a call. So that means 57% of the time we don't need a part to fix a unit. So he's next door. I can get him there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
If he gets it up and running, great, everybody's happy. But if he doesn't get it up and running because he needs a part, now the customer's like, well, you don't have any parts on your truck. Well, no, it's because I made a call to try to see if I get you up and running. Now I'll be back tomorrow, and most likely I'll be back tomorrow with the right parts because I already have an on-site diagnosis. So your total downtime is going to be less than 48 hours.
Right.
Versus what happens a lot of times in those same situations is, well, I know I don't have the parts on the truck. This manufacturer decides that you're not supposed to go on a call unless you have the parts. So now I have to redispatch everything, schedule it for the next day, make sure the parts get on the truck. But now I'm relying on a customer diagnosis or a call center diagnosis or something troubleshot over the phone. So I put those anticipated parts in my truck.
Yep.
I get out the next day, show up. Well, turns out that wasn't really the problem. So now I need these other parts.
Yeah.
So now I'm still taking 2 trips, but now my total downtime, instead of being that 48-hour number, is now 72 or even longer, depending on what parts are needed. Because if I diagnose it first on site, I'm pretty much guaranteeing that I'm going to know what parts are going to be needed that next time I go out.
Yeah. So taking all that we're just into account, managing customer expectations in the service business, and I really want reps and dealers and manufacturers and customers, all the other pieces of the industry to understand. This is not easy. This is not easy. I think if you've never run a service company or worked in a service company, you probably don't truly understand the ins and outs of what goes on a daily basis in dispatch and service departments and parts departments and warehouses.
Well, everybody still has that Maytag mentality that we just have guys sitting around our shop.
We're idling.
When they call me,
We're waiting for you.
Why can't I send the guy? No, I mean, even manufacturers, subconsciously, I think they still have that mentality. They know our guys are out on the road dispatched 10 hours a day, but they still have that subconscious mentality of when I call, why can't you send a guy?
Right.
I think in January, we had a great meeting down in Cancun as a National Service Co-op.
I know. I wish I was there.
We did a panel discussion. So we had a major manufacturer service manager there. The 2 parts distributors were there. And I sat on the panel as the servicer then.
Okay.
Now, the topic of discussion was expectations versus realities in food service.
Yes.
My favorite was our cover photo was the picture of the advertised Big Mac versus what happens when you actually order a Big Mac. You know, the old falling down scenario from that Michael Douglas movie. But that was the discussions of you guys, and so you guys, the manufacturers and the dealers are going out. We have the greatest service network. You know, we're promising 4-hour response time and first-time fixes, and that's what you should expect.
Yeah.
Will they do that without even coming to talk to us to see if it's possible?
Right.
And if it is possible, how much is this going to cost? I mean, I work on the old adage. You can have it fast, you can have it good, or you can have it cheap. You can only pick 2 of them.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't work for all 3. So if you want it fast and good, it's not going to be cheap.
Exactly.
If you want it fast and cheap, it's not going to be good.
Exactly.
And if you want it good and cheap, it's not going to be fast. And that's where we're at. So
it's true.
We need to have the customer understand the realities of the market. It may
Yes.
not be friendly, and I think I talked about this a little bit at NAFM.
Empathy.
We don't want to sugarcoat anything. We don't want to sell false promises.
No.
We want to offer true solutions. And that's where I think salesmen trying to sell something versus a servicer trying to give a solution.
Yeah. I mean, that it's true. And, you know, I have an instance that just recently happened. So as service companies, we're running on emergencies, right? We're running on emergencies and equipment down. So there's a few things that I would say probably don't warrant that. Like an installation is something you're going to schedule out. That's not an emergency. That's not a rush. Startup is not a rush situation, but you get these you got to. And I just had a rep text me because we didn't get to a startup fast enough. you didn't get to starter fast enough. Basically, I explained to him the issues and why we couldn't. And listen, I have 12 technicians. I don't have 50. We're doing, as a small business, I'm doing 250 calls a week here, and we are focused on key accounts. We are focused on the money making calls. I mean, we're in business. So at the end of all this guy had the nerve to say to me, "Get it right next time." I wanted to reach to the phone and grab him by the face, but you got to maintain professionalism, so we do that. But
sometimes I fail on that end.
Oh, me too. I got Jersey come out of me sometimes, and I got to reel it in sometimes. But it's like, this guy has no clue what we're doing over here. There should be empathy because we are partners in this thing. We're all pulling from the same customers, and that just makes that's not going to make me go faster for you. It's just not.
Especially when it's probably a $25 startup that
I
have to schedule in when I'm trying just in the area just so I don't lose a ton of money on.
Right.
And I don't like having to do startups if I didn't do the install. Why?
That's another discussion.
Why is a startup put on the servicer? It should be put on the dealer or the rep. They're there doing the installs, and the startups are essentially showing the customer how to use the equipment.
A lot of times they're
My
bringing
techs
in.
don't know how to use the equipment. They know how to fix it.
Right. A lot of times they're bringing in companies that two or three mans, trunk slammers, and they're doing the installations, and then we get called in for the $50 startup. They should be hiring us to do these installations because we go in there to do the startups, and sometimes we have to stop on our tracks. No one's paying for that. I can't do a proper startup if the thing isn't installed right. I can't just start putting out false information to the manufacturer. I'm like, listen, this thing was installed improperly. We're not getting good read on the water and the water column, different whatever it might be.
And my favorite is when you get that notice of, can you do a startup tomorrow? Like, that's the only notice you get. Well, we need it done by tomorrow, and you get it 2:00 today.
No. No. We just went through this. We had someone call up to do an installation on a combi. It was Thursday. I need it done tomorrow. No. Not only that, it wasn't even in my territory. So I'm like, we'll pay you double travel. It's not about that. I don't have a physical person. I've already got my. It was, what is it? It's Tuesday. Wednesday's already planned. Thursday's already planned. Friday's already planned. You go on an installation. You got to give me a week or two to get you on the board.
Yeah, you have an oven down. I'll try to fill it in, because I know that's important.
It's a little different.
But I'm not going to go and do it. And then most of the time you show up at that install, and none of the utilities are in anyway.
There's no walls sometimes.
There's no conversation there. I've had that where I get units shipped. I show up to call the customer. They're like, we haven't even broke ground yet. But the dealer shipped the unit because he gets paid when that unit gets shipped.
That's
I
what it's all
store that
about.
unit in my warehouse for 4 months. Who's paying for that storage? Worst case, who's covering that unit as far as insurance goes? I still haven't found a good answer in the industry on this. It's under my care and custody.
Right,
so if
liable?
my warehouse were to burn down, am I responsible for that equipment?
Liable, right.
Who's liable?
Yeah.
If the customer owns it, they already paid for it. Is there insurance?
That's an interesting topic.
There's not a clear question there. But like my dispatchers and service managers organize their calls. We have, I don't want to call it a tiering because I don't really have a good word for it, but the first thing they look at is the urgency of the call. Is it a combi down? Is it a toaster down? Or is it an oven that's just not quite coming up to proper temp? Mm-hmm. And those take different urgencies. A combi down, we're going to try to get there right away.
Because you know how crucial that is to the operations. It's doing everything.
If it's a toaster down, you're not
You
losing
could wait till
revenue
tomorrow.
because you can't toast your buns.
You could wait till tomorrow.
If it's an oven that's not coming up to temp, we'll get there in a couple days. You still can cook your food.
Right.
You just got to kind of adjust your
Right.
times.
And then you got the walk-ins with $10,000 worth of product. You're going right to the top.
So that's the first, refrigeration down.
That's big.
Us as a company, if we can't get to a refrigeration call, we'll tell the customer, please call somebody else because we don't want you to lose. I'd rather tell that to a customer
Right.
than tell them I'm going to get there today or tomorrow and then not get there.
Yeah.
We'd rather do that. But then under that is certain manufacturers that I have great partnerships are above. National Service Co-op, because I'm a shareholder of that. Any National Service Co-op calls get put right to the top of my board.
Sure.
Then from there, I explain it to some service managers at manufacturers. It's like the grocery store. You think Kellogg's gets on that eye-level shelf because the grocery stores like them? No, they pay to be there. So you want to get your calls higher up on my board? Once you get past those first two disciples,
Yeah.
then is it a street rate call? Is it a warranty call? Is it a what rate call, and what customer is it? Do I have a contractual relationship with that customer or not? If they're a great customer, so they'll get bumped up.
Key accounts, baby.
Even
Key
though
accounts.
their rate might be less, but they're a contracted customer, so they go to the top of the board.
Yeah.
But it's almost a pay for play. I had a interesting conversation with the service manager. It was over the summer, and I was asking for my warranty rate increase. Told him what I needed, and he said, "Well, will that increase your performance and your urgency for my calls?" And I looked at it. I was on the phone with him. I was like, "No, that keeps you on my board. You want to go up on my board? We can talk about different incentive rates, but that literally keeps you as the bagged cereal on the bottom shelf.
All right.
It allows you to still be on my board."
Yeah.
He did not like that answer, and he said, "Well, we can't do that." And I was like, "Okay." Send him an email saying, "Thank you for the time. Take this point. Please take this as my 30-day notice for termination of our service agreement." It lasted 22 days, and they called me back, and we're back doing them at that rate.
Okay.
But I'm not promising any additional KPI performance.
Right.
You also have these manufacturers that come out with these, "Oh, we're going to incentivize you. We're going to give you this." I just got a new addendum for one of my manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're at this % first-time fix rate, you get this. If you're at this
I know.
% first-time fix
I
rate,
know.
you get this.
Yeah.
But the incentivized rate isn't even my street rate. But they want that to be their premium service. You can't expect premium service with a wholesale rate.
You can't.
If you're not even going to incentivize me on a rate that's at or above my normal rate, where's the incentive? Now I got to work extra hard to make less, even though it's more than what the base rate is. Fine,
Yeah.
I'll just take, if the base rate's at my minimum, I'll just take the base rate all day, and you'll be down here with the bag cereal.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't it feel like every other party? It feels like they think that we're like a nonprofit organization. Service companies are nonprofits. We have extreme costs. How could you send somebody out for $65, $70 an hour and expect to have me jump for you?
In thin margins.
Very thin.
My street rate margin is 12.5%. Like, that's the max I make. That's without a discounted street rate, just on that labor.
Yeah.
And then I had a manufacturer that I walked away from, that when I had tried to have a logical situation, showing him my breakdown of costs, how I go from average payroll to add benefits in, time off in, administrative staff in, looks how I do my overhead. So how I get from tech payroll, to my overhead burden, to that's my cost. He looked at me and was like, "I don't believe that." It's like, okay. Well, you may not believe it, but this is what I'm working on, and this is why I'm asking for this. And here's the data that shows it.
It's all in the numbers, for sure.
When you're trying to have me do this work for this money, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And we're not out here to rape people.
No.
But we need to make a fair margin on everything we do.
Yeah. If you want us to be here and be here for you, we have to actually make a profit. So that's where the partnership comes into play. And over time, I think the industry is going to change over time.
It's slowly. I mean, it has changed a lot since we came in. But now we're going to get to, this is my prediction for the future. As the technician shortage gets bigger and bigger, our labor payroll is going to go up and up.
Yes.
So we're at, I think it's safe to say, good technicians are making around $30 an hour.
Absolutely.
Well, that's going to jump to 60, 70, 80. It's the only way we're going to draw people into the industry. Your skilled trades are going to pay more than or almost as much as your doctors, just like they do in Germany. But the negative effect that's going to have is, so now our labor rate is going from 90, 100, 110, 120. Now we got to go 3 times 60. Now we're at $180, $200 an hour. What that's going to change is, right now your disposable equipment is like your $600 fryers, your $1,200 griddles. You're looking, well, I can spend $400 to fix it, or I can get a new one for $12. You're probably going to get the new one for $12.
Right.
Get it. Once those labor rates start shooting up to get the technicians in the field, now your disposable equipment's going to go up from the $500 to $1,500 up to $35 to $5. Now disposable equipment's going to be $5,000 to $8,000. So that's where we need to concentrate on the bigger ends, because I look at it this way. There are no TV repairmen left, but there's still auto mechanics.
Yes, there are.
And that's kind of the way our industry is going to go.
Yeah.
As we have to increase our labor rates to support the demand on our techs, the bottom end equipment, and not bottom end as in quality, but bottom end as in price, is going to start to become disposable, because now instead of a $400 repair, it's a $1,200 repair. So now if it's a $1,200 repair, a $3,600 piece of equipment becomes a service replacement piece.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I foresee the same thing. I mean, everything is going to be going up and up and up. And that's why we talk about, the 6-figure incomes. And a lot of guys we talk are already making that. A lot of your top guys. You have your A guys that are making that. You have your B guys that are at the 80K. You got your C guys that are at 60K. Depending on how that much they want to work and what they want to do. You are who you are. But it's there. That's why I said that when I go talk to the high school kids and I'm trying to explain to them, who knows about the food equipment service industry? Shh, not a hand. But once you start talking to them, like, guys, listen, you're going to write your own ticket. If you learn something in the next 5, 6, 7 years, you're 18. Like you said, by the time you're 25, you could be that 6-figure guy. They're like, whoa, so everyone's coming to talk to me. We're talking about money. It's like, and on top of that, you got the medical, you got the 401ks, you got the uniforms, you got the tablets, you got the smartphones, you got the gas card, the Easy Pass to cost you nothing to come to work. These guys are going to be writing their own freaking tickets. It's going to be expensive out here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, the simple thing like just coming to work, having your truck to take home. Guys take home their truck.
Yeah.
The amount they save in the travel expenses over the year alone compared to, I went to college, now I work at this office, I have to drive in a half an hour commute every day to the office.
You got gas, you got tolls, you got parking maybe.
Yeah, versus you have the trunk, you're just going and going. And, as much as you work, as hard as you work is what it determines. Now you have to, it's not easy. No. And it's not easy work.
It's very hard. It's a hard job.
It is a hard job. And it is work, but it's good, honest work.
Yes, it
that
is.
pays well.
Yeah, I mean, especially, and if you love people, we're in the people business. We're fixing people.
And as I said earlier, you can't outsource it. So it's not like it's going to go to a call center in China or India or Omaha.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no robots replacing this.
No.
Even if they put robots in the kitchen, somebody's got to fix those robots.
Yep.
We're going to be probably the ones at the end of the day with those burger arms and everything flipping. Who's fixing that? We're going to be the ones called in.
Yeah, because we're already in the kitchens.
We're there. So these manufacturers that are building this stuff are going to say, who do we call? Well, they're probably going to look at Cefesa and say, hey, we have a network. We don't need to worry. And so, I mean, it's recession proof. It's not going anywhere. It's so big. I love talking about it because I want hopefully someone's going to listen to this. One of the younger generation kids out there, and they'll hear the passion and the amazing things that are happening in the industry, especially if you want to make money. So continuing to talk just a little bit with the ins and outs of service companies and dispatch. I'm trying to get rid of the perception and bring reality into play of, the phone calls that go, can't you just send someone? Can't you just send someone? I know we talked a little bit about it with, someone calls up with installation. Can't you just send someone? The answer is we can't just send someone. And how are you letting these customers down easy out there just when they're calling in like that?
Like I said before, like on a cold side call, it's a little bit different than a hot side call. Because on a hot side call, it's a customer not being able to sell product. On a cold side call, it's a customer risking losing product.
Yeah.
So on most cases, it's cold side call, especially in the summer. I think I turn down more calls than we actually run in the summer for cold side, just because, hey, you can't get it. And if you want to be on my list, let's have a PM agreement, something that puts us to prioritize you, like that we're always in there. And then we know you're using us, we're using them. It also helps us stock parts for you, because if you're constantly using us, we know we're going to keep the parts that you need, because we know they're going to be on our shelves. You're going to need them. We're going to sell them. Yeah. I can't have every part on my shelf.
It's impossible.
So if I don't have a relationship with the customer, and I don't know you have this South Bend range. Well, I don't know you have the range. How am I supposed to know that I need to have these parts for you? Right. So the better relationship the end users have with the servicers helps even that scenario, which eliminates the downtime. But if, when we get super slammed, it's, are they this? Are they this? Are they this? Are they a contract customer? If it's a new customer that we haven't worked in, hate to say it, our assumption is well, you got to us in the phone book, or it's an old term, but you got down to us on Google and you've called 4 people that you normally use. And
Yep.
if we don't have you in our system, that's pretty much it. So again, we try to use urgency. Like, yes, I'll reroute a guy. If I have a guy scheduled to fix a toaster and you call me and your combi's down, my dispatchers will try to say, hey, as soon as you finish up this job, if your next job's a toaster, get here and we'll figure out what we do for that customer. We also do, in the summertime for cold side, we do a priority call.
Okay.
So if a customer does call with that situation, a walk-in's down, my guy's already dispatched out. What we'll do with that customer is like, look, you need it now. But in order for my guy to finish the rest of his day, we're going to charge you the overtime now because you want the priority call. So even though it's the middle of the day, you're essentially paying overtime for us to finish this other customer later. And we can do that maybe once or twice a day at each location.
Yeah.
It's not an unlimited
Right.
service.
Right.
But when that situation does arrive, we can offer that customer, you pay the overtime now because the calls I already have scheduled,
Right.
I'm going to have to finish on overtime.
Mm-hmm.
But
So somebody's got to pay for that.
It's going to
Right.
bump you up. And
Yeah.
we've had some success. We've had some customers also saying, well, I seem to always get that. Well, again, if you're calling me an hour.
Right. Call ahead of
advance,
time.
And granted, a lot
Sometimes
of times
you
you
can't.
don't know. Yeah,
Right. Sometimes you
don't
can't. But I think that there are many instances where someone's looking at something on a Monday and they're like, it'll be fine. And then Wednesday comes.
Well,
you should have called on Monday when you thought.
The example is you get that call on a Friday night.
Right.
My fryer's down.
So many times.
My fryer's down.
And the same people
Well,
over and
you
over.
have you have 4 fryers there. I know this because I can look at your equipment.
Yeah.
You have a bank of 4 fryers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, the first fryer went down a month ago. The second fryer went down 2 weeks ago. The third fryer went down Monday, and now the fourth fryer is shot, and it's Friday night.
There you go.
So
They
now
waited.
you created the emergency by
Right.
not getting it fixed as it happened. 'Cause
Yes.
the first thing we ask, your fryers are down. All 4 of them? Are they plugged in? Are they connected to a gas supply?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not the one went down a month. That's when we get that story. And now it's an emergency issue because you went from 4 to 3 to 2 till your last fryer went down.
You waited.
I mean, we're guilty of it too. I do that with my propane tanks on my backyard
We,
grill.
I think human nature, we do stuff like that,
Like,
right?
I have
We
3
put things
propane
off.
tanks. So never go get that filled. Second one happens. Time the third one happens, now I'm out of propane, but I have 3 tanks. How does it happen? So we're all
Right.
guilty of it.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
But at the same time, there needs to be that understanding there that who's creating the emergency.
Right.
It wasn't me. I'm here to solve your emergency.
That's the key,
But
right
we
there.
have limitations of what we can do.
That's the key. We are here to help. And the lesson there is don't wait till the 11th hour when everything is hitting the fan. Do it when the first one goes down. So
I mean, my favorite term in the industry is it's a hot rush, but overtime's not approved.
all the time. How many times a day do you get that, right?
I mean, what's not a hot rush? To me, it's a hot rush when overtime's approved because you don't care what it's going to cost to get it back up and running.
Yeah.
But I love when that comes across the desk from a manufacturer.
Or a rep, whoever it comes to. Hot rush startup.
Yeah.
Hot rush. Hot rush. A soup warmer down.
No, overtime not approved. It's not a hot
Well, it's
rush.
not a hot rush then.
It's not, if you're not going to pay for it,
Right.
it's not that important to you.
Exactly. It's the truth. So, what else can we talk about here then? What's is there anything hot pressing on your mind right now in the industry or in your own company or anything?
I mean, it's really the technicians and growth. Like, I'm limited in the growth of what I'm doing by being able to find people. I mean, again, and the problem is I've come across, even with my work with Cefesa, we're now looking at being able to give our curriculum to trade schools to sell, for lack of a better word, as a curriculum for somebody coming to trade school to actually, for the first time, be able to go to a trade school and learn commercial food equipment service.
Yeah, big.
In Pennsylvania, myself and Glenn Clark and Randy Gray from AIS and Kirby Mallon and Elmer Schultz and Josh Taylor at American Kitchens have been working with the state of Pennsylvania to try to create
Industry veterans?
a state-sponsored apprenticeship program in Pennsylvania through, I think it was Penn State Tech in Williamsport.
Okay.
So we have all these venues of being able to train people. even Cefesa at the Global Training Headquarters.
Yep. Down in South
Anywhere.
Carolina.
We have I think we solved the training quotient at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we can offer all this. If there's nothing feeding people into these programs,
We need the people.
that's the key. Like when we were talking about the apprenticeship program, we're like, great. They told us what the expenses were going to be, and we all talked about splitting it for the state and doing this, and kind of looked at it as like, well, so once we put all this up, what's feeding people into it?
Right.
Well, it'll be available.
It's got to be more than that.
It got to be more than that when we're putting
Yeah.
that expense out. I think the key is even before high school. Well, you got to change the high schools. They shouldn't be graded or judged on how many people go to college. If you want to do that, judge it on how successful they are after they graduate high school, not if they go to college or trade school.
Yeah.
Mike Rowe, I think, said it best when he said trade
Love Mike
school
Rowe.
or the trades can't be a consolation prize for not getting into college. They have to be a goal-driven career path.
Yeah, sitting right there with college. Like it's like you're a second-rate citizen if you go into the trades. When these guys are making more than these guys down on friggin' Wall Street. A lot of them. They just are. And they're probably getting more vacation time. I mean, we're talking top-tier intelligent guys that are doing this stuff.
I mean, and the benefits that we're offering to try to get people in. I mean, right now, I have, of course, matching 401k health benefits. I mean, my lowest tier, I do 3 different health plans for my guys, my employees.
Yeah.
One is a $3,000 deductible, $1,000 deductible, and a 0 deductible. Now, granted, they have to pay up for the thing, but just take a $3,000 deductible. I think they're paying $6 a pay for that. I'm paying the rest.
Yeah.
Like, they're literally paying $6 for health insurance. My company, we offer a short-term, long-term disability and group life. We started doing that because now my guys don't have to worry about faking an injury on a job to get it covered under workman's comp.
Yeah.
If they get hurt playing basketball on the weekend and blow out their knee, I have a short-term and long-term disability plan for them. So it's
great.
not affecting my mod.
That's great. I mean, these are all big things.
We do it's called ID Shield. It's kind of like, everybody heard of LifeLock. It's the same thing. So it's an identification. We just offer that. Here you go.
Yeah, it's something else. It's an add-on. It's part of the package. I mean, you're showing, I think, the employees that you have that, hey, we care about you.
Yep.
Which is big. I mean, a lot of companies out there don't really give a shit. And that's another selling point because I think you'll find a lot of companies like even me myself. I mean, I care greatly about these guys and gals. I'm a small business. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. We added a life insurance plan for everybody at no additional charge for them. We didn't always have dental here. My father had it. We have dental and vision and everything that we brought into play for these guys. And you do little as many things as you can. And if you come into this industry, you're going to find a plethora of companies that actually care about the employee. So I mean it's huge. What else we got? What else we talking about here that we're gonna maybe shock some people and turn some heads? Anything?
No, I don't really think there's any shocking news. I think it's just a constant push and constant talk. I mean, conversation and communication's the key. I think a lot of the manufacturers are now starting to realize that, we need to work together instead of just dictate down.
Yeah.
Because there's a start. I was talking to one of the older guys in our industry, and it's a simple conversation. It's like, I'm looking at it like, how'd we go from where we were at to this? Like, how'd we go from, we work for a manufacturer, we send them our invoice, they data entry everything, to now it's our responsibility to data double entry everything, so it goes on whatever manufacturer's platform that they want. Like, this is before my time. How did we get from point A to point B? And it all revolved around that everybody didn't want to give up their guaranteed protected parts territories.
Yeah.
So the manufacturer said, to keep this, you have to do this. To keep this, you have to do this. To keep this, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Then took it out from under us. And he's like, that's basically what happened.
It's true.
So we need to get back to a balance. We want to be even as a partnership. And I think over the course of the years, from parts to labor rates to lack of training, and I don't say lack of training as they don't want to train us, they're scrimped too. They're guys that are supposed to be out training us or on the phone doing tech support all day because they don't have enough people to do it. But we need to get that relationship back to even.
Yeah.
And
agree.
it's just constant communication and offering that side.
Yeah.
I had a conversation. It was at NRA last year in Chicago.
Okay.
President of a manufacturer. They had just made the decision to change from self-distributing parts to go to a master distributor.
Of course.
And he was like, "What is your opinion on this? How does this affect the servicers?" It's like it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
I was like, so you have the edge of the distributors do a much better job logistically getting us parts than an OEM could have ever imagined possible. So we get the parts available. Downside is everybody has the parts available. Before, if you wanted that part, I was only allowed to buy from you, and they were only allowed to buy from me.
Yeah.
Now everybody has that part. But we get those parts. The downside to the manufacturer is as soon as you do that, you lose all control over the ASA that you had.
Yes.
Because
I have a great example too.
If I'm not your ASA, I still have availability of those parts. So everything you wanted to dictate to me, if I don't like, I can still service your equipment and I can still have availability of the parts.
Yeah.
I can
I have a great
still
example.
pretty much get close to that discount based on my purchasing power with that distributor.
Talking about losing control when you do stuff, when you give distributorships. So I had some credit issues with one of these houses, the parts houses, and I needed a Cleveland part. And lo and behold, they had one. Wellbuilt didn't have it. So I'm saying we're not shipping it to you because we didn't fix this credit thing right now, so we're not shipping you any parts. I said, okay, well, this is for a warranty job. Maybe you can help me out. Nope, sorry. So we tell the manufacturer. They go to the parts house, and they said, nope, sorry, we're not shipping it. They didn't care what the manufacturer had to say. So they're beholden. Their customer's down. Our customer's down. And now we're beholden to them because of a credit issue that I ended up fixing and making better. But, you're putting all your eggs in a basket.
Yep.
This customer was almost screwed for not having this part shipped out. It's...
And we're at a point now where they're too embedded. They can't backtrack that wheel.
No.
If something would go wrong, if one of these houses would decide to do something, I don't want to say illegal, but less than kosher, the manufacturers don't have a backout plan.
No.
They can't. They're too embedded. One of the examples is we all know a couple of the parts houses are buying up servicers. Well, what happens if all of a sudden they say, all right, well, we have all these servicers over the country. We're only going to sell to them at this rate. Everybody else has to pay this rate. Or everybody else can pay, they pull a Hobart and everybody else pays this. What's going to happen there? I'm not saying they're going to do it, and I don't think they have any plans to do it.
Right.
But as anything, the ability to do it and doing it are two different things. But just having the ability to do it creates some edginess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little interesting out here in the food equipment parts and service world in 2019. So wrapping some things up here, let's talk a little bit about K&D. What's K&D got going on?
So we just recently, about 3 years ago, we opened a new branch. We have a new satellite. As of about last year, we've been operating out of it's actually Greencastle, Pennsylvania, which is kind of halfway between Chambersburg and Hagerstown, Maryland.
Okay.
That's going to be, once I get that built up to enough where I can put brick and mortar there, I'm going to put brick and mortar.
Okay.
I've always been a true believer of brick and mortar branches.
Yeah.
Because that shows that there's an investment in that area. And that, all right, if you have a satellite branch, it just means you have a guy in that area. If that guy leaves you, you no longer have a satellite branch there.
Right.
You put brick and mortar there, you're committed to that area.
For sure.
We are in the middle of an acquisition, which I can't really get into.
All right, so
yet.
Stay tuned, everyone. Maybe we'll get the exclusive on our channel here. Stay tuned.
But we are working on that. As of Sefesa-wise, I come off the board in September in D.C. I have to sit on the sidelines for a year.
Okay.
On the NSC side, we're really moving over there. We kind of switched the business model a few years back, and now we kind of go in to manufacturers just like the parts house. The parts house goes in manufacturer. Let us outsource your parts department.
Right.
National Service Co-op now goes into manufacturers and say, let us outsource your warranty department.
Right.
We already have a national service, So we're doing that, especially a lot of the manufacturers that are coming in that are shipping containers of imported equipment over that don't know how the service industry in the States works,
Sure.
don't have a service network. It gives them the ability to come to the National Service Co-op and say, we need a service network, and I don't want to have to call 137 different
Right.
services across the country to do it and
Makes it
negotiate each rate. So we've had a lot of success there. The NSC is also working on expanding our outlook. We're looking into actually outsourcing tech support calls.
Okay.
We're looking at building that program. So if a manufacturer is getting overwhelmed, it'll free up their technical people to go out and train us.
Right.
And the National Service Co-op can take those technical support
That's
calls
interesting.
for them. We're also working on a data collection program that we've been working on for 3 to 4 years now.
Okay.
The goal there is really to become the J.D. Powers of the industry. We're taking certain points of data. A bunch of manufacturers have tried it and failed because they want this for this, this for this, this for this. And it's too many different data points for too many different types of stuff. We try to simplify it so we can get total cost, total labor cost, total parts costs, most common parts used, was it in warranty or out of warranty, things like that, to compile data between all the shareholders there and hopefully the service partners too, that we can then sell the data back to the manufacturers or the end users. And it'll be real data. I think the biggest fight coming for our industry is, which we didn't talk about, is the third-party facilities providers.
Yeah. I'm not a believer in them. I don't work with them. I won't work with them.
They only get in between us.
Yeah, I won't do it.
And
I've
the
lost
problem is
lost too much.
All they're about is data collecting.
Yeah.
They don't care about what gets done. They care about the data they get. Then they sell it back to the chains. And the problem is it's bad data because they're using whoever they can get there the fastest, whoever they can get there the cheapest. So they're not using the trained technicians.
Yeah.
And if they're not using the authorized trained technicians for that piece of equipment, how true is that life expectancy of that equipment?
Right. Are you using those guys? Third parties?
I do not.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, you know, when they went, I mean, I'll mention it. I don't care. It was FM Facility at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, they screwed me.
I've done
twice.
different tries and this and that.
Done.
And speaking of them, you know, I had an interesting interaction with a major chain, the manufacturer service manager, and myself at one of the shows. I don't remember if it was NRA last year or NAFM 2 years ago. So I'm sitting there. It's a major chain that's in my area, and they use one of these third parties. Now, I've been in the restaurant a couple times, and it's not good what's going on there because everything's just running, and that's about what I'll say about it. But so the service manager introduces me to the president of the chain, and he's like, yeah, I know that. He's like, we want you to get on board. You know, we'd like to use your service. I said, yeah, but you use Chain Restaurant Solutions. I can't work with them.
Right.
He's like, well, they protect us from paying. I was like, no, they don't.
No.
All they do is get in between you and I and working out the deal. They're taking a cut. They're charging you X. They're paying me Y. They're taking that cut in the middle, and they have no control or say, and all they do is, then if they don't pay me, where are we at?
Yeah. Now your service gets
It was
stopped.
a perfect instance where the service manager could have stepped in and said, you know, you really should be using the ASA. They're the trained, they're going to help your equipment last longer and run better. If you're not using the ASA, you're not really using our equipment, because once it comes out of manufacturer specs and you have a guy that's jumping out limits just because he's the guy that's in there, it's not the same. What I really took out of that is that the service manager just stayed quiet because they were such a big customer on the sales side that he didn't want to overstep that to try to bridge that relationship. That's the partnership we need from a manufacturer.
Yeah.
That manufacturer didn't step up when they probably should have.
Yeah, and I say it all the time. We got to have each other's backs. You got to have my back. I'm going to have your back every freaking time out here.
Yep.
That's what it really boils down to. Yeah, the third parties. That's a whole. We could do a whole. We could probably do another hour on that. I mean, they call up sometimes. I don't even want to. I can't get into it.
Yep.
So, all right. So in wrapping some things up, I always like to ask some different things. So, favorite fast food. What's at the top of the list today? If you eat fast food, when you do.
Probably Five Guys.
Five Guys. All right. I'm not a Five Guys fan. I'm just not. I don't know what it is.
And my guilty pleasure is Long John's every now and then.
Long John Silver's.
You get that fried goodness, but
Yes, sir. What about fine dining restaurants? when you're out? Let's say we're going to NRA. Are you going to be in Chicago, by the way? You going
Yes, I have to go get my Young Lion award.
That's right. Congratulations. Where are we going? What's the steakhouse? What's the best steakhouse in Chicago? What do you think? I've been to Lowry's. That was pretty damn good.
Lowry's is good. I actually liked Michael Jordan a lot.
Okay.
It used to be an Intercontinental.
I
I hate the Intercontinental Hotel.
Yeah.
I hated to stay there, but
We used
I
to go
like
there
that.
all the time, right? Yeah.
I mean, just tradition. We always go to Valeri's.
Okay.
We used to go with Tony all the time. And I always end up going to one of the Brazilian steakhouses. I love Brazilian steakhouses.
Yeah.
But now, if you want to know my favorite restaurant in the country,
Let's hear it.
801 Chop House in Omaha.
801 Chop House in Omaha. That's not a paid advertisement, by the way.
So I go out to Omaha about 5 times a year for the National Service Co-op, and I have to go to 801 every time. It's a traditional chop house, huge steaks. They come out, show you the steaks, you order.
Okay.
They cook it
Yeah.
perfect, and of course the sides. The sides cure the cancer. That's why they're so expensive.
Yep.
And sides, everything's covered in truffle butter, and it's
good.
It's my favorite restaurant in the country.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap this one up. We said a lot. Care Factor, Season 2, Episode 5. Thank you for joining us. And listen, if you're in Pennsylvania and you need service, give Dan a call. He's a good man, got a good company. And we will see you on the next episode.